Today's AskReddit post. What is the worst secondhand embarrassment you've ever felt? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. Went to an Italian restaurant once with someone who was learning Italian and knew quite a bit. None of the staff were Italian. It was essentially just a pizzeria in a small town. She insisted on ordering for the whole table, in the language with the correct pronunciation, etc. Waitress was like 17 and didn't have a clue what was happening whilst we all just sat there. An ex tried to order sushi in Japanese once. 1. The owners were Korean. 2. Most the staff had been here for a few generations now and primarily spoke English in any case. Was at dinner party when my friend's mother-in-law asked another one of our friends when her baby was due. She wasn't pregnant. Anyway, Mill should have simply apologized, but instead doubles down with something to the effect of "it sure looks like you're pregnant. Why? Exclamation mark. I wouldn't ask, even if I saw a baby arm hanging out. I have a muffin top that reads pregnancy. I cannot tell you how many times tertiary people in my life have asked about my pregnancy. I always say I'm not pregnant. I'm just fat. I've watched people die inside, and I don't feel bad. Was going down an escalator at the Mall of Georgia when the 90-something-year-old guy in front of me very suddenly pooped his pants. We were about 500 feet from a bathroom, and he was wearing shorts. I felt so bad for him. My dad gave him his hoodie to wrap around his waist. I was very proud he was my dad in that moment and still am. What's up with people in Georgia? LMAO. I live here and so many old people poop themselves around me, and it's never happened anywhere else I've lived. I work in a bank, and one time this lady made a weird face and I realized that she had pooped herself after smelling it halfway through our interaction. It got on the floor. Someone else had poop in one of the offices, and it was all over one of the nice chairs in my coworker's office. We had to throw it away. Another time a guy got stabbed in our branch in downtown. Came in to do a check deposit and trailed in blood all over the place. We offered to call an ambulance, but he said he was taking an Uber and that he didn't want to pay for an ambulance. Can't say I blame him too much. Atlanta is just something else, lol. A girl graduating from college falling down repeatedly on the stage. She fell at least 3 or 4 times, and it was like something invisible was sweeping her leg out from under her. Even she had a WTF expression on her face. How long was the stage walk? Damn. Not very long. A colleague of mine put in his 2 weeks. For context, he's a fairly attractive man. Well, this woman from ours, of all places, comes by his cubicle to wish him well, I guess. Anyway, she basically gives him a lap dance right there in front of the whole office. To no music. Just silently grinding. Skylar singing happy birthday. Had a guy walk into class in college late. It was auditorium seating, and the only open spaces were on the 4th row in the middle, about 25 rows in total, and about 50 seats per row. This guy walks in and sits down 15 minimums into lecture and opens his laptop, which, as soon as the lights boot up, starts blaring porn, and at the build up to the big finale to boot. He couldn't log in fast enough or mute it, since he wasn't logged in. So he slammed it shut, put it in his bag, and walked out with it still blaring at full volume. We heard it finally stop as he was about to leave the building. I would simply pass away on the spot. I think I just got third-hand embarrassment. I keep the cyanide pill in my backpack for this very reason. I was selling some kettlebells on Facebook Marketplace and a woman, early 40s maybe, bought them. She came to pick them up, and as I handed them over to her, she obviously wasn't expecting them to be as heavy as they were, and as she suddenly strained to counter the weight, she ripped the most extreme of farts you have ever heard. It was gargantuan. I was shocked, but also proud. I'm usually pretty good at making light of any situation, but I found myself speechless for the first time in my life. If I could, I would return serve, but even on my best day I don't believe I could create such a symphony. We both kind of stared into each other's eyes, and she said well, and turned around and walked off. I think about her often. That time my old roommate told a table full of his family that AIDS and cancer are the same thing. Just after talking about how much he's been learning from his night classes. Those classes were being paid for by his parents and *spoiler* alert he wasn't attending any classes. They realized it by the time dinner was over. Please tell me he was taking pre-med classes. Unfortunately no. That would have been the icing on the cake. It's been so long I don't remember, and I haven't seen that guy in years. He went to welding school after that, but last I heard he was a masonry apprentice for 5 years, before moving on to something else. I was a server at an Americano restaurant and a family came in, and the mother was berating everyone. She yelled at the server and complained about the food not being the right temperature, and then she thought it was too salty, etc. She really had it in for the 17-year-old server. He was fine, but the customer wanted to pick at someone. Her husband and teenage children looked embarrassed. She had been like this before. There is a sign on the door that said we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, and management decided that this lady shouldn't eat with us again. So the manager went over and calmed the meals and told them to leave and not come back. The woman was upset and left mean feedback. In response the feedback, a regular posted with a picture of the woman and her family. She quickly took down her bad feedback. She deserved the public upbraiding. But I was embarrassed for her family. My old boss, who was basically Irel Michael Scott, was describing a coworker on the first day she came in for an interview. He described her, *to her face as Viagra with legs, and she still took the job. ? I read it as she took the job, and then when she started he told her to her face about her interview day. Bless my ex-GF. She was a waitress, and we were out to dinner with my parents. My mother pulls the trying to use an expired coupon move on the waiter. She simply refused to accept that time is a thing and that the written date had passed, while I zone out and wait for my mom to either win or be escorted out by management. My ex was apparently slowly losing her mind. She suddenly snatches the dollar bill sized coupon from my mother's hand and eats it, literally tore it, and shoved the pieces in her mouth. She says that since there's no more coupon, there's no deal. It was nice having the crazy chick be crazy on the staff's behalf for a change. What did your mom do? That video of a guy that was rejected on the beach, so he rants about how his daughter just died and has attractive. And then she responds, not if you trauma dump on us like that Lmeo. Oh my god, thank you. I could never understand what the girl said at the end, and it makes this video even better now that I know. I went to an open house and there was this older realtor helping the listing agent. He was excitedly walking around this empty house talking about features while looking back at my husband and I, and he ran headfirst into the chandelier that would be positioned over a dining room table had one been there. It happened so quick we couldn't even warn him. He got tangled in it and ripped it down as he fell face first to the ground, cutting himself up badly in the process. We both still cringe thinking about it. We saw him out at the supermarket recently and both whispered, oh no. I've been reading the responses on this thread for 20 minutes now, and this is the most embarrassing one I've read yet. Does third-hand embarrassment count? My uncle died midway through a contentious divorce from my aunt. Nobody on our side of the family liked the guy and we were happy she had finally dropped him. Turns out nobody on his side of the family liked the guy either, his adult children and parents included, and didn't seem fazed at his death. My mom went to the funeral to support her sister and said it was the most awkward funeral she'd ever been to. There were only about 10 people who actually attended, and the pastor running the thing had set aside 30 minutes for people to come up and share their positive memories of the guy. No one moved. Nobody was willing to say a good word about him. Instead, the pastor awkwardly tried to fill the space with some general everyone has value stuff, and then gave up and ended the service after 10 minutes total. No one in the family bothered to go to the graveside service either. Apparently they decided to go to a bar instead to get poop-faced and trash talk the dead guy. When a colleague accidentally unmuted himself in a meeting and said something snarky about someone on the call, that particular call was being recorded too. Not me directly, but I had a colleague tell me he'd been moderating a work-related town hall meeting on Teams, and the meeting was being recorded for publishing on the website. Some poor sod didn't realize his camera was on, and took his laptop into the bathroom with him to continue listening while he took a dump. Since most people had their cameras off, his video popped up beside the presenters on Teams. Needless to say, the recording was quietly lost. Watching a guy do an aerial silk routine to Imagine Dragons, and he got tangled and stuck and couldn't move, and they had to stop the show and lower him to the floor. Face first, I had to go outside to cool down because I couldn't stop laughing. I was ringing a girl and her BF up, and she was a few dollars short on her transaction. BF then got in my face and insisted her Red Bulls were Boggo. It is true they *were* Boggo, but the promo had ended months earlier. This man proceeds to yell and scream at me for 5 minutes about how she deserves these drinks and how dare I yada yada. This whole time his GF was trying to disappear into the chip display like Homer sliding into that bush, just dying of embarrassment. Eventually, after I threatened to trespass him, he gave me the biggest IRL I have ever received and spat on the floor and told his GF, "Let's get out of here, this faggot clearly gets off on denying beautiful women what they need." His exact words. Meanwhile, broke ass man doesn't whip out his wallet, giving a beautiful woman what she needs. I saw a friend who was upset that his girlfriend corrected his grammar, throw himself on a couch and kick his feet and pound his fists while he cried out, "Don't correct me, you're not my mom." She kicked him out of her apartment and broke up with him. I wondered how she lasted so long. I would have wanted the floor to swallow me up. A kid in boot camp poop his pants. We were at the rifle range all day and they have to inspect every part of you to make sure you're not sneaking rounds back to the squad bay to shoot your D with. So they told us to stand up, pull our trousers and skivvies down, and to turn around. One of the Ds goes, "What the duck is this?" And instinctively we all turn and look to see this pale, skinny 19-year-old that has poop all over his ass and camis. I can't describe the humiliation and horror I felt. They made him march with his trousers around his ankles around the squad bay until our senior D came out to see what was going on. I don't think I pooped for a week after that. It was like my body stopped producing it out of fear. We had 63 guys in our platoon, and he was the only one who didn't graduate. When a mildly popular travel vlogger decided to sing an original song at every destination he visited, not only did the music sound like cheesy 90s karaoke, but the lyrics were insipid, and he couldn't sing for poop. I mean, he was awfully brave to try to do that, but damn, it was terrible. Luckily for his viewers, he stopped doing that after just a few episodes. The comments were not kind. A new guy started at work and a couple of us were standing around just bullputting. A lady that also works there, who is fairly rough around the edges, walks by and the new guy looks at other guy we were chatting with and states, "Damn, I feel bad for her husband." It was her husband we were talking to. I need to know, how did the husband react? I was in the gym and my boyfriend was introducing himself to the biggest guy in the whole place, and then he reaches out to give a hand. My boyfriend goes in to give a hand. The big guy actually was reaching out to his actual friend, who came to say hi, leaving my boyfriend hanging. I died inside, but then they all laughed about it. I'm sure everyone felt this for me. I walked into work one day and everyone was standing around, and I was like, "What happened? Someone die?" Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Yep, guy I worked with took his life. If anything, I'd say you're good at reading rooms, especially when they are dead silent. This was years ago. Met a lady, 40ish, who had a piercing in an unusual spot, upper lip, about half an inch away from the nose, and more towards the cheek. It was a plain circular piercing. My friend, M20s, who knew the lady, sort of reached out to touch it, saying, "Sorry, you've got something on your face." She gently recoiled. He tried again. This was with others in the vicinity. I died a bit that day. I did this telling her she had cigarette ash on her face. It was a birthmark. Lately it's the JoJo Siwa videos, where she does that dance. I feel bad for her. Dream guest on my podcast? Exclamation mark. Question mark. Hard to watch, but I can't look away lol. Ohu. Anaruhu. Who she's recipe today. A guy poured his heart out confessing his admiration and respect for a male teacher and requesting him to be his personal mentor. That he would follow his teachings like a disciple. In a very long message with lots of pleading and reasoning. I know this because he accidentally used the group chat with every single person in the Facebook group for the school on it. I still cringe 10 years later from reading it. Did he say yes? That time Ashley Simpson performed on SNL and the wrong song came on for her fake performance and she just kind of stood there for a minute then did a little jig. Didn't that basically end her music career? Yeah. I don't think anyone ever heard about her again since. Seriously. It was a funeral and the pastor talked for about 15 to 20 minutes about his latest mission trip and all the fun they had, and only mentioned the deceased twice during the entire service and even that was pretty generic, like he was a good man or he loved to work cattle. Actual quotes. Forgot to invite to people who were supposed to give some sort of eulogy. Made a joke to try to smooth things over, and I was one of the many that hugged the family and fled before it got even more awkward. This does not sound sober. A random acquaintance at a party seemed to be weirdly obsessed with my race, and during every conversation topic he managed to make some bizarre joke about me being black. All the jokes fell flat, but after every joke he'd anxiously look at me and say that's not offensive is it? Because I'm not racist. Laughed it off and managed to get away from him, but he spent the rest of the night periodically coming up to me and saying sorry about those jokes earlier despite me saying it was fine. And he just would not drop it. Everyone at the party had horrible secondhand embarrassment, including me. Oh god, that's the most awkward poop. Smoke break at a tech support call center. A really pretty girl asked anyone there for a smoke and a pencil neck geek got her one quickly and insisted on lighting it. For the next 10 minutes he attempted to dominate conversation because this was about him and her, and he now had some sort of shot. We were all standing around a garbage can with an ashtray on top. It was stuffed with bag lunches. The girl snuffs out her butt and tries to put it in one door of the garbage can, but it's a locked side. The geek says, "Allow me," and launches into a strip mall karate kick. The biggest kick his 90 pounds can muster. The garbage can goes over, and the ashtray scatters wet sand, ashes and butts everywhere and on everyone. All the smokers take the last minutes of our break to pick up. The geek just stands there stiff, like he's willing time to reverse before the time he ducked up and lost his true love forever. He stayed there, even when the girl yelled at him to help. We finished cleaning up and left him standing there. A moderator of a trashy celebrity snark subreddit did an interview with an online journalist about the sub. The mod was teasing it for months, saying how great it made the sub look and how bad it made the celebrity they hate look. When she finally posted the article with much pomp and circumstance, the sub members had to explain to her that the article made them all look like a bunch of picklehead stalkers. She went from proud to enraged in no time flat. Everybody cringed. I went to a fundamentalist evangelical college and went to a version of Forced they put on at one point, since I had a number of friends in it. For some reason the director had them all the actors in these sparkly spandex skin tight suits. This was a school where they still ban dancing, and sure enough on opening night the guy playing Forced has a giant erection for a solid hour of the show. Not an evangelical college, but my biggest second-hand embarrassment moment is similar. My friend was in a production of A Midsummer's Night's Dream when we were in high school, and another friend and I decided to go to support her. One of the actors, I can't remember who he played, had an erection almost the entire time he was on stage. He managed to get it to go away during intermission, but it came right back after he returned to the stage. I felt so bad for him. I know it was almost definitely just nerves, and that erections can happen for no reason sometimes. But damn. I fully can't even begin to comprehend how he didn't spontaneously combust from embarrassment. It's been well over a decade, and that night lives rent-free in my head. The first thing that comes to mind is watching a very high white dude at a party the other night try to explain that his friend gave him a N-word pass, then continually dig himself deeper into a hole by saying weird vaguely positive things about black people for 15 minutes straight. I'm embarrassed reading that. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.